Hosting and bandwidth provided by the Blue Box Group. Check them out at bluebox.net. You're fantastic at coding, but do you have an action plan to take it to the next level? The upcoming book, Next Level Freelance, will help you optimize your freelance business for happiness. The book is packed with actionable steps to make more money, case studies, tips to find more clients, and exercises for you to establish your desired lifestyle. Extras include 9 interviews with freelancers who make great money while enjoying great work-life balance, videos on strategies to find quality subcontractors, and videos on making more free time by outsourcing your daily tasks. Check it out today, nextlevelfreelance.com. This episode is sponsored by PlanScope. PlanScope is a project management and collaboration app built for freelancers and the way they work with clients. It makes it easy to price out new estimates, and once you're underway, help answer the question, will this get done on time and under budget? I've been using PlanScope to do my estimates and manage my projects, and I really, really like it. It makes it really easy to keep things in order and understand when things will get done. You can go check it out at planscope.io. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 85 of the Freelancer Show. This week on our panel we have Reuven Lerner.
Hello.
Jeff Schoolcraft.
What's up?
Eric Davis.
Hi.
I'm Charles Max Wood from devchat.tv, and we were supposed to have a special guest, but there was a scheduling conflict, and so we're just going to talk about a discussion that we had in our little private channel on Skype. And Reuven was asking about basically starting up a kind of a screencast series, and there was a lot of good advice in there. So I think generally it's going to be aimed more toward getting started with products, but I think he provided a specific use case that we can kind of riff off of if we need to.
Sure. So, I mean, I've been, after hearing lots of good advice from the other folks on the podcast, I decided the time has come, even though I haven't quite finished the dissertation yet, to start dipping my toes into the product waters. And one of the ideas that I had was to do a screencast series. And I was thinking about a few different options. What seems likely now is to do a subscription screencast series on PostgreSQL. And so I said, well, I should probably run this by the other folks in the podcast and see what they have to say. So my first question, I guess, and I'll sort of rehash the question and then we can see what everyone says is, so I want to start a screencast series. How do I go about doing that, or sort of letting people know beyond just sort of setting it up and announcing it to my LinkedIn contacts and my Facebook friends? Is that going to be enough to actually make it a viable business?
Yeah, and there were definitely some thoughts there. Eric, do you remember the wise advice you gave before I jump in and start talking?
That was over 24 hours ago. I don't remember anything. I think the biggest thing, and I think I've had this problem myself, so it's from my experience too, but it's, if you have an idea for a product and you say, I'm going to, do a screencast series on Postgres, and you put all the time into it, build it and launch it, a lot of times what can happen is you're not going to get a lot of people coming in. It's not going to be, you're not going to get significant enough sales early on to really feel like this is a viable business. And a lot of that comes from the fact that, when you really look at it, you have this like kind of network of people that whether on LinkedIn or on Twitter or, just friends and maybe people locally at like a user group or something. And those people, while they might be even a good size amount, not all of them are going to be interested in it. And even if it's a good amount, at some point you're going to really tap out all the people in your kind of the first degree network. So kind of something I've been kind of learning and picking up more is like, if you can't kind of get outside of your network and attract customers, it's going to be really hard to build, a service or a product into a business. And this also, like I said, this also goes for like freelancing services too.
So it might be well and good that I've got, an enormous number of links, but that's just not going to be enough. I'm going to have to somehow get in touch with people who I've never heard of, somehow get them to hear about me, get them exposed to this service that I'm offering, and then somehow get them to sign up and pay me as well.
Yeah. And I mean, with a subscription, it's a little bit better because the ideal is, you get, say, 100 customers in 1 month, and by the end of the month, 99, 98 of them are still going to be there. So you don't start from scratch. But like all my ebooks are one-time sales. So every month I have to make the sales up again. Like on the first, I start from zero again. And so with one-time stuff, it's a lot harder because you really have to continuously bring in new customers or your revenue is just going to go down to zero. Mm-hmm. The hard thing with subscription, on the other hand, is, you're selling people on a subscription. So it's a monthly commitment. It's not like an impulse buy. And that tends to make it even harder to get started. But once you get started, it kind of builds on itself. And I think Rob Walling talks about this. It's like the flywheel effect of takes, 100 pounds of force to get that flywheel moving. But once it's moving, keeping it moving at the rate it's going is a lot less.
Yeah, the other thing that I've seen with a lot of the stuff that I've tried out is that it really helps to have a platform. And so, if you just go out there and announce to the world that you're going to put out a series on Postgres, or I think your other idea was Unix command line tools or something like that. And,
yeah.
Whatever it is, people have to know that, that you're out there, that you're an expert. And so you need something out there that kind of proves that. And so if you look at some of the other subscription models, such as Avdi Grimm's Ruby Tapas, I mean, he has 3 or 4 ebooks. He's on Ruby Rogues, Ruby Rogues Parlay. There's a whole lot going on that he could tap into and say, hey, I'm getting this started. And so as it ramped up rather quickly. Railscast Pro is kind of the same thing. I mean, Ryan had been doing that for a long time. And then he turned around and said, okay, I'm offering Pro, and I'm offering what people have been asking me for, like updates to old ones and, specific new ones. And it worked out for him. I'm not sure what Gary Bernhardt did to build up to his Destroy All Software.
I think it's a similar thing.
Speaking mostly, sorry. But
yeah.
Avdi, I mean, you're right, Avdi, Ruby Rogues, and Parlay, and his ebooks, but even before that, I mean, he spoke at a bunch of conferences, regional and national, and he had a big following from that. And I think Ryan Bates is interesting because I think he started from nothing. I mean, he happened to be the first, probably, in the, language-specific screencast series, maybe. I don't know what the timeline is with Jeffrey Grossenbach and Peep Code, but I mean, he was doing weekly and Grossenbach was doing sort of ad hoc releases. But so Ryan was a little different just because he was first, but then Gary did a lot of speaking, I think first in Python and then in Ruby. And I think he's mentioned it. It's hard to tell with Gary if his tweets are snark or serious, but it seems that his little Watt talk for, his little 5-minute lightning talk for JS Conf or Code Mash or one of those, like a regional conference, he said that did a lot for Destroy All Software because it basically went viral or something. But I think his platform was mostly conference speaking.
Yep. But in any case, I mean, there's a track record there. People knew who they were interested in what they were talking about, and so they went and signed up. I think you can do it the other way, where, you have a few people who are talking about what you're doing, and then from there building up. But I think it's easier if you already have that community that you can reach into and say, hi folks, I know who you are, I'm one of you, and here's what you wanted.
That's definitely part of it, and I think Eric in the back channel talked about Ryan Bates and his consistency. I mean, he has, God knows, 350 some odd Railscast before he took a pause and then sort of an indefinite hiatus for a long time, which seems to be a kiss of death, which is off topic, but kiss of death for screencasters that make that their solo business. They run out of ideas or get burnt out, but from consistency, it helps to have more than one episode. So, I mean, you can have a platform and tell people that you're going to do the screencast, but it might be worth it up front. I don't know, Chuck, you probably know better. There's some magic number for podcasts to get over the hurdle before you know they're going to stay, and make that number of screencasts and just focus on the content and have enough so that people aren't waiting to see if you're going to be around for the next week or month or whatever.
There are a couple of numbers that I've heard, but my understanding is that more than half of the podcasts that get started don't make it past episode 6. And of the ones that make it past episode 6, I think another half drop off or before 10. And so, the ones that make it are the ones that stick around past there. And that's about 2.5 months if you're doing a weekly show. And by then, I mean, if you've been doing it for 2 or 3 months, I think people are pretty comfortable that you're going to be around.
And if you can work in, and this is sort of tactics, but if you can work in a free episode every once in a while, I mean, Ryan Bates had a consistent mix. I think his publishing schedule was like 1 free and then 1 pro or 2 pro a week or something in the beginning, and then it switched. And I think Gary made 1 or 2 free. Avdi made a couple free in the beginning. But so even if your initial content is not all paid, then you give people some teasers. And for most screencasters, once you pony up for the subscription, you get all the back content anyways. So just having more content out there for people to look at will hopefully get more people into your funnel.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Also, if it's free, it's not just for the people who might be interested, but they can then, it can then has the potential to go viral, at least be mentioned by others. Because if you are interested in something and you hit a paywall, it's bad. But if you think someone else might be interested and they'll hit a paywall, it's even worse.
Yeah, well, the other thing is you get all the benefits of the SEO from it. You get all the benefits of putting it in search engines like YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can really pay off in a lot of ways to have these free ones out there every so often, even if it's just a back catalog of a handful of videos that can help people out.
Right.
Well, we've talked about this before with like other products where you kind of need like a funnel idea where your paid product is kind of where you want people to end up, and you either got to give free information like from like a blog post, or somehow have either lower priced things to work their way up to your kind of a high end product. And in the case if you're doing like a screencasting product, the subscription service would be your high end product, even though it's going to be a lot per like each month. As the overall value of the customer, it's going to be a lot higher. And so, you might even sell like one off, like, if you want to buy one specific screencast, it's, $5, $9, $10, whatever. I mean, that's kind of Peepcode's model. And then they have their unlimited, which is a couple hundred a year. And so, that lets you sample Peepcode. And then even if you don't even want to commit money, I'm pretty sure they have like demo reels or whatever of a couple minutes. So you can see each screencast, like, oh, would I even be interested in learning about Ember or whatever? But that's something you just need to think about, and however you do it, whether I think Avdi does the 1 free to 2 paid a week or something, or I know Gary Bernhardt had 1 free one on the homepage and then like, I think a sample of a paid one, and that was it. And, you kind of got to figure out how you're going to basically prove that this service, the knowledge you have is valuable to potential customers and get them to be interested in actually paying for it. You can't go from buy my stuff to a paid product. You have to kind of do gradual steps. Oh, you laugh, but I mean, there's a lot of companies that do that, and it's funny. You can see them get made fun of by other people that know how to do marketing.
Right. I mean, I don't know that much about marketing, but it seems pretty clear to me that maybe you'll make some sales that way, but you'll make way, way more if you demonstrate that you know what you're talking about and that people trust you as an authority, for sure.
Right. And I've seen this in membership sites where it's similar to screencast subscriptions, where someone's paying a certain amount per month and they're getting access to something that's valuable. And membership sites, it's typically just like text, or maybe there's some video thrown in, but it's predominantly text information. And if you have it open, like a lot of the examples we've talked about, what can happen sometimes, someone will sign up for 1 month, download everything for the past 9 months, and then cancel. And so if you actually do the really hard sell, you're going to get a lot of sales like that where, you tell them, hey, just buy my stuff. I don't have any free stuff free to try. Someone buys it, jumps in, grabs all your stuff, cancels, and then does that every 6 months or something.
Mm-hmm.
You worry about that, the whole idea that, so you get to a point, like, I don't know, I was looking to see what Ruby Tapas was based on the platform, and it's Get DPD. But so he's at, I've just like 140 or something tapas, and what Eric just mentioned. It seems like it's almost like the fear of getting your software pirated or getting your ebook pirated and put on BitTorrent. Or so you get the one guy that comes in and pays it $10 or 9 months, and then $9 for the month, and then downloads your whole catalog and then unsubscribes and then waits another 6 months. And I guess that thing can happen. I just don't know if you care about it, if the person's going to do anything with the videos once they download them. Hopefully they'll be back to keep watching, but I don't know how much I would spend mental energy on people that are going to come in just to grab all your episodes and unsubscribe immediately.
Yeah, I'm not saying that to worry about it. I'm saying because you're always going to have customers that are going to abuse you. Like, they're going to try to work the system. I guess my point was, if you were giving a lot of stuff away and were providing value before you even asked them to buy stuff, the people who are going to go all the way through and buy your things are going to have a lot more trust in you. They're going to feel more connected to you, and they're going to feel bad if they rip you off or if they put your stuff on BitTorrent or whatever. Versus if you didn't do that, you might just get someone in there that's what they do. They go and get a whole bunch of things and put on BitTorrent and give it to all their friends. So it's the idea of kind of building up trust with your potential customers and kind of, I hate using the word community for this, but it's kind of, you have a community around it where, you guys are watching shows back. And as long as you're creating a lot of value and really actually trying to help your customers, they're going to appreciate it and kind of respond in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I'm only a single data point, but I mean, for the screencast services that I subscribe to, I mean, I look forward to the new screencast. I'm cheering on the author basically to get new content out because I'm looking forward to consuming it. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming most customers that are paying you for your stuff on a subscription basis are sort of in the same way, but who knows?
So, I mean, okay, so I have to establish authority in some way and trust. What are the ways that I do that?
Well, I think we talked about a lot of those with the blog and the speaking and, I mean, because that's what Avdi did. He's on a podcast. Right. He wrote some books. His blog's fairly popular. He spoke at the conferences. Gary was speaking at conferences. Ryan Bates put out videos that were free, that were fairly popular, and he was very consistent about that. And so people knew that they could count on him putting out pro videos when they paid him.
I think you have to worry about the level too, right? I mean, you could try to come in, and I don't know what your positioning is, but I mean, you could try to come in at the high end, and you'd want to do all the stuff that Chuck just rattled off. I mean, you want to be like keynote speaker or premier speaker at a bunch of events, and people look to you for commentary, blah, blah, blah. Or you can be honest and upfront with your audience in the beginning and say, I've done it for a while. I might not be an expert, but I've got a lot of information that I want to teach, and there are probably enough people that aren't at the level you're at and would be happy to consume that material.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's my feeling. Like, I know there are people who know much, much more about these topics, like, for instance, Postgres than I do, but I know in my day-to-day work and my consulting work, I encounter a huge number who know way less than I do. So I'd be sort of looking at them. The folks who know the internals don't need my help, and there's not much I can do to help them, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. One thing I want to say here, though, is especially because a lot of the examples we talked about, they already have a group of people that follow their stuff, like Railscast. If you're starting from scratch, like you don't have a blog or you don't have any public stuff that says you're an authority or this, don't feel like you need to go and spend 3 years making free screencasts or blogging before you can actually do your paid product. You can start your paid product now. It's going to be a little bit more work to build the trust up, but just the fact that if you have a good, high quality product that's solving problems, as you get customers, they're going to enjoy it, all that. And that's going to build your authority just as fast. And I don't know if you guys were around when Peepcode first started, but, Jeffrey didn't have a lot of stuff out there. Like, he had his blog, which I don't think he updated that frequently. And I don't think Peepcode ever had free videos, but he was stuck with it and put out such high quality stuff that over time people said, yeah, Peepcode's your resource. They have only paid products, but it's worth the $9 or $11 for each video.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
One other conversation that we had around this was figuring out which topic to pick and whether or not it would be profitable to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one that I want to talk about is, how do you pick the topic that you're going to go with? Do you go with the one that you think has more appeal? Do you go with the one that you're more passionate about?
Yes.
I'd say you have to. I was going to say, I mean, you have to be passionate. And I alluded earlier to the kiss of death. I mean, but a lot of people have gone the full in with screencasting and made that their full-time job, and they run out of ideas. I mean, to be fair, Ryan's done 5 years of Railscast or 4 years of Railscast. So he's done a lot, 350 episodes, whatever he's done. And he did a lot of consulting, and he admits that a lot of his a lot of his topics came from his consulting. I think Avdi has mentioned a couple of times that some of his inspiration for Ruby Tapas was from the pair programming sessions that he did with people. And I'm not sure where he's getting his inspiration now, but definitely you want to make it as easy as possible to be consistent. And if that means being passionate about the content, then that's probably what you want to be. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating from a consumer standpoint in someone that has a schedule and you're paying for the subscription and it doesn't come out. And I'm not going to name names, but I subscribe to this one screencast series, and almost every month when I see the bill, it's like, I really need to cancel this because I think there's been one release in a month and they sort of stretch it as long as they can and they push 2 episodes at the end of the month and then somehow they work out 6 weeks between episodes or something. But I mean, you have to be able to produce and deliver content consistently, and however you muster the will to do that, I would do that way. So inspiration and enthusiasm would be high on my list.
Right. I mean, I guess the closest thing to this I've done has been my Linux journal column, which I've been writing for a long time, since 96. So every month I've been writing a column. And I'm certainly still excited about it, and it doesn't give me trouble to write it, but it's also a much wider topic area, meaning more or less they give me carte blanche to talk about whatever I want, and I can say, well, this is sort of interesting to me. Whereas a subscription service, by definition almost, is going to be much more specific and narrowly defined. So finding that balance between having enough to say and keeping passionate about it, but also, something of depth is probably a bit of a tricky thing.
Well, there's one thing you can do with the have enough topics to talk about, which I haven't seen many people really do. I don't know if it's because they don't know about it or it's just they find it's not a good strategy. But if you start with, say, you charge people monthly and say you do a screencast every week or so on, we'll say Postgres. You do that for 9 months. And if you run out of topics, whether it's because you can't think of anything, you're not smart enough, you're not working in Postgres enough, whatever, at those 9 months, you can stop the subscription service, bundle up those 9 months of screencasts and just sell those as a standalone product. You basically tell people you're not going to get any new content with this, but here's 9 months of stuff. And so you convert your screencast stuff into this one-time download. And, as a business, that might not be the best thing, but at the same time, if your passion or your schedule just says that you can't really do this weekly stuff anymore without basically phoning it in, that might be the best strategy to take. Basically phased out the product and convert it to something where new customers still get a ton of value from it, but it's not a reoccurring type thing.
Yeah, that's kind of
Gary
what Gary
Bernhardt actually did that. Yeah, sorry.
Well, the other thing is it seems to have, or for me, integrity is a big thing, and it feels like that's a very integrous thing to do, where basically you tell people, look, this is where it is. So rather than give you substandard content just so that I can hit my monthly quota, here you go. And, then you just give it away to the people who are subscribed, and, new subscribers, so to speak, just pay one fee to get the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. And I think there are other ways. I mean, hopefully you have an active community once you get in a month or so in, hopefully. Who knows how long it takes, a month or 6 months or whatever. And hopefully there's enough comments and you have a way for the community to comment. And you can always go back and revisit topics, which is one way to do it. I mean, I imagine there's a way that you can do sort of live episodes, seminar, webinar type question and answer type free gatherings and get people to ask you questions, and some stuff you might have covered, some stuff you haven't. I mean, I think the easiest way to come up with new ideas is going to be just the more people you can talk to.
Is that like on Millionaire, where you ask the audience?
I'd like to call a friend.
No, I want to say there was a while ago. Yeah, a while ago there was Erin Blasky. She did some freelance web design consulting stuff. She's in Canada, but she used to do a live chat Friday afternoons or something, and it was a 1 hour on Justin TV or one of those, and it would just sort of be was more a hangout, but so ask questions, you can answer it. And so it was just a bunch of people chatting. And I want to say there was a Rails-ish one that happened for a very short period of time, like maybe 2 or 3 months. They were trying to do like not a call-in show, but sort of like a public webinar kind of. There's a couple people that do Google Hangouts now. I think there's a DC-ish group, Ruby group that does a Hangout, but so that's another idea. I mean, it can be, in addition to the regular content, I mean, just have some thing that you do on a regular basis. Again, consistency, but then if you get some people hanging out and asking you questions, hopefully another opportunity to get more ideas.
Right. I mean, I would normally assume that subscribers would suggest ideas, but I know, at least from my Linux Journal column, if I get one email a month from a reader, that's a lot. So maybe
that's
really
a much different thing, right?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Is that delivered digitally, or is that still print?
No, it's delivered digitally. They surprised us about 2 years ago. Guess what, authors? We're shutting down the printing presses.
Yeah, I think a lot of it though comes back to both the passion and honestly, if you're going to pick between something that makes you enough money and you're passionate about versus something that you think will reach more people and maybe make you more money, for me anyway, I'm much more likely to stick with it if I love it, as opposed to if it, because once it passes a certain threshold with the income, then the income becomes less important to me. But anyway,
I had one last thing before you change topics.
No, I was just going to say, as far as ideas go, if I love something, I tend to play with it even if I'm not working in it right at the moment. And so, I'll probably have more ideas for the things that I'm more passionate about. That was all I was going to say.
True.
And so another option might be, I mean, there's a subreddit for everything, and there's probably forums and mailing lists, and just lurk on the mailing lists and the forums and subreddits and see what people are asking about and what they have problems with. And if they don't have a sufficient answer, even if they do get an answer that solves their problem and you haven't covered it in a screencast, then you can rehash it and give your take on it. I mean, if somebody's asking it, probably somebody else needs to ask it too.
Right, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. So I'm a little bit curious because I've looked into doing some things like this myself, and I even started building my own little platform for it.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that you can go and set up WordPress plus some membership thing and whatever for, in less than an hour or maybe 2 hours.
There are a million ways to do it, probably. Like I said, I looked up Avdi because I wanted to make sure I was passing on the right thing, and his is get DPD. I don't know what to say, digital platform, something, whatever.
Digital product delivery.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, his comes out as an email, and you can get RSS subscription to it, but there's no web interface. I mean, maybe there is.
There is, but it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, DPD is what I use for my one-time ebook sales. Like, Avdi is using the subscription product type, and it's new. I think Avdi was kind of their beta user because I know him and DPD support was going back and forth getting like iTunes feeds and all that. But I mean, I was paying $5 a month. I'm paying $10 a month. I mean, that's actually more than what you need to kind of get your platform going. You don't need to make custom software for it.
No, and I did, and that's the worst thing you can ever do. When we were selling BDG casts, we spent, I don't know, 2 or 3 times total the amount of time we had ever spent on content. We spent 2 or 3 times that amount trying to build this stupid custom software, and it was just ridiculous. I mean, WordPress and some sort of subscription plugin, or the Railscast source code is on GitHub, and you can get that and use that, or get DPD. I think even Gumroad. There are probably 20 different services that let you sell digital content super easy, so I would not waste any time on that.
There's a quote I read in a writing book or somewhere, but it basically said, this is to professional writers. Like, if you're a writer, the best thing you can do to advance your business is to write more books. They even said marketing is not as important as writing, because when you think about it, when you're writing another book, that helps, like that gives you more opportunities to market, and that kind of brings up your older books too. And I kind of think of that when I look at my consulting stuff or anything. Like if you're going to do a screencasting product that teaches about a topic, making more screencasts is probably the most valuable part of that business. Even if you have the worst interface for people to actually download the screencasts, if you make more screencasts, people are still going to jump through those hoops to get them.
Yeah. Right. The other thing is that hopefully if it's of high enough quality, it'll get to somebody who will talk about it. And so if they have, and I'm going to use Eric's favorite word again, platform, or if, you know, whatever you want to call it, if they have a community, a group of people that they care about them and will listen to their recommendation, and they say, hey, look, if you really want to learn Postgres, this Reuven guy over here has some awesome videos, go check it out. People are going to go sign up, and they'll go sign up just off of that one person's word. And so, I mean, you really, you know, you put out quality content, you make some good contacts, you know, be interested in them, see what you can do for them, and it'll probably pay off.
Right. I actually contacted both Avdi, who was very generous and wrote back to me and was very encouraging. And he told me that he uses DPD and he's happy with them. And he said exactly the same thing as you guys were, which is he gets to concentrate on his screencasting then. And he said, yes, the website doesn't look as good then, but he gets to concentrate on what he wants to, and they take care of the rest. And I also contacted the DPD people, and I asked them a few questions about it. And partly because I'm in Israel, and I want to know what the payment options would be to get it to me, to my company in Israel. And they said I would have to use PayPal, which, I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not, you know, so terrible. Just actually the real problem with PayPal is the conversion rate to other currencies, but fine, I'll live. And they also asked them if it would be possible to have multiple pricing structures. So, like, you know, if I want to have an individual price and an enterprise price or something. And they said, oh yes, they take care of that. It's fine. The only thing they don't do is let you automatically have the same content in subscriptions and individual purchases. So one of you mentioned earlier that, you know, you can take individual screencasts maybe and sell them separately. And so that is possible with DPD, but you have to put it in a separate store and manually move it around. But even that does not sound so terrible.
Mm-hmm. No. And I mean, if I think I know what's going on, like, yeah, you make a new store and you upload the new file and set a price and you're done. Like, it's, right. I actually have, I think, 4 quote storefronts in DPD because I have automation stuff separated differently. So actually every one of my ebooks is in a different store.
And that's because it gives you a chance to track it more easily. Like, why would you not have all your ebooks in the same store, for instance?
It's basically because each ebook has its own mailing list of people who signed up for it. And this is actually because DPD didn't have a feature that they have now. And so if someone bought book A, I'd want them to get on the mailing list for book A so I can tell them there's an update. But I don't want to tell people that bought book B because it's not relevant to them. But DPD's changed that. So I'm actually in the process of consolidating into one store right now. So, but I mean, setting up a new store and uploading your product, like you said, it's probably a 15-minute operation once you know what you're doing.
And you found that DPD has good service? I mean, they responded to my query pretty quickly, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they've had a couple downtimes. I think they had some DDoS attacks or something, but it's been very minor. I mean, my server, if I hosted it all myself, would go down easily 10 times more than their actual store stuff. And the fact that they handle PayPal and then a couple clicks and I added Stripe support, I mean, they probably saved me dozens of hours of actual custom development.
So basically, if I just set up like WordPress on my server, and with each new episode I have a headline or something, and then a link to the DPD store to the subscribers to log in, I've basically done all the software development I need, as it were, on my server.
Yep,
that's pretty nifty. Now, Eric, speaking of mailing lists, you had a lot of really, really good suggestions and advice about setting up mailing lists, both sort of initial interest mailing lists for a landing page, and then contacting people and segmenting and sort of figuring out the marketing for that.
Yeah, do you want to talk through that? Because I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, so the context of this is the mailing list to kind of get an idea of, one, kind of who your potential audience would be, 2, to kind of test where they're coming from, and 3, to kind of figure out like what they want. And so it's not kind of my weekly newsletter or here's the monthly mailing list for my company. It's not in that. It's just in this case, we're using email to deliver it. But the idea is kind of the classic, you make a coming soon landing page that says, I'm starting a Postgres screencasting series. Would you be interested? Sign up below, and, opt-in form to kind of put your email address in it. And with that, you can then send traffic to it from, whatever sources you want to try, see how those convert, see if you can get people that are both in your kind of your network of people, like from putting it on Twitter or whatever, but then also getting outside that network and seeing how effective you can reach outside. And that's basically the first step of any kind of business. It's like, how easy and how much is it going to cost to actually attract customers, or actually in this case, even potential customers.
So, just there, I'm sort of curious to know. So let's say I put out links and, announcement on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and a few other places. How do I know, based on the mailing list signups, which is converting? Am I going to give them a different URL, or is it obvious, or is it kept track of somehow?
Yes. There's a lot of ways. Easiest way is, you're probably going to have Google Analytics on the landing page, and you can use the UTM parameters to say, this came from another website. The website is, this is the website, and the actual link they clicked was like the call to action at the bottom of the post, versus if you bought like a banner ad or whatever. You can also send them to different landing pages. Like you can have, I think I said yesterday, I have over 24 landing pages, and some of them are all 80% the same, but the 20% that's different is because, if I'm sending people to one landing page for freelance marketing, I'm going to want the landing page to talk about freelance marketing. But if I'm sending people to a landing page, and the ad or the link they clicked was how to get started in freelancing, I want the landing page to say the same thing. I want basically the message that they clicked to be consistent from the action they took on someone else's homepage to my landing page. And that's a big thing. That's how you actually really get good conversion rates. You don't want to click an ad that says learn about marketing and you're on this site learning about sales. It's kind of jarring. But yeah, basically what you would do is it's very, very easy. You can set up codes to track and know who came from where. And then depending on how long you do it, you can know okay, it's Tuesday. I'm going to have a guest post go live on a big Postgres blog. And, Tuesday and Wednesday, most people that sign up are probably coming from that source.
Okay. So I get these people to sign up for my mailing list. And then you were telling me that, okay, now that I've got people signed up, now I can use those people who express some interest to poke them a little more and find out what would really be of interest to them in terms of schedule, in terms of pricing, in terms of topics.
Yeah, you don't want to poke them, but yeah, once people sign up.
Okay. Maybe I know. Rob them was part of it.
Once they sign up, basically, Dave, it's at that point you can kind of assume they express an interest in the landing page, whether it's because they know you and they I want to learn what he's talking about here. And I've had a lot of my customers come because they know my previous stuff. I had a quote platform about it. Some of them might be interested because your headline spoke to them, or the details you gave them spoke to them, or maybe a friend referred them. But all of that's a very small amount of interest, and you're not going to know who has what interest. You don't know why Bob came versus Mary versus Sue. And so what I've kind of been experimenting with and learning is the types of emails you send, you can kind of have people take action and guide and kind of tell you what they're interested in. So if you, your first email, you say, hey, there's this interesting thing on the official Postgres blog about performance tuning in a Postgres cluster. Here's your link. And through the different software, you can track who actually clicked that link. And if you originally started, I'm going to talk about general Postgres stuff, but you found 97% of your people on your list clicked that link, they're going to care about performance. So now you're going to put performance on your list of topics you want to start covering. And same thing, if you sent a link talking about how to set up a Postgres cluster and 1% of people click that, you're going to know, okay, they don't want to set up. And you can kind of draw some little conclusions that these might be advanced people. They know how to set stuff up. They can follow instructions, but they want tuning and kind of optimization stuff. And, this gets into really high end advanced, stuff in your mailing list stuff, but you can actually then send targeted mailings. If people click the performance link, you can send only them an email with more performance links, or, we mentioned maybe even sending them a survey of, okay, do you have performance problems with your Postgres cluster? What problems have you had? Have you solved them? And basically figure out what real problems they have and figure out if there's any kind of value you can deliver to them. And this works even outside of a screencast. This works for normal products. Like if you're actually building, say, a consulting service about Postgres performance, like this is the same process you can use.
Okay, now let's say so people sign up on this landing page, they express an interest, I send them out email with some information, maybe some links. Half of them or some percentage of them click on some link, some other percentage click on another link. Do most of these mailing list services, like we had discussed using Aweber last night in the chat, will Aweber allow me to segment the people and only send a follow-up message to those who clicked on the first link or clicked on the second link?
Yeah, with Aweber, you might have to use another tool that I've been experimenting with, but you can see who clicked on a link, and you can always at the very least, it might not be automated, which is the software I'm looking at, but you can always look at the details of that email and see how many people clicked on it, and see actually the people who clicked on it. And for kind of the I'm starting a product idea, if you can get an idea like, okay, here's a percentage of this versus this, that might be all the comparison you need. Because the other thing is some people just might not read your email. So you can't draw a, scientific A, then B conclusion. You can just kind of get a feel for it and use that and, basically use it to kind of help your marketing, help your figuring out what you're going to offer, not actually being a strict guideline.
Okay. And I can then, so how do I then approach these people? Let's say they've been clicking on my links. Let's say they've been opening my messages. How can I then approach them and ask them about pricing? I mean, do I just come out and say, how much would you pay for such a product? Or do I give them options?
You can either way. One thing is survey the market. See how much competitors or close competitors are charging, and that's going to give you an idea of, what people are willing to pay, especially if the competitors are successful, like Railscast or Ruby Tapas, where they're making money. It's not just a product out there no one's buying. And you can ask people. The hard thing is, if you ask me, would you pay $20 a month for this? I might say yes. But when it comes down to getting my credit card out, I might hesitate and not do it. Right. The real big test is to actually ask for the credit card and see who actually pays you. And that kind of gets into like a lot of like the lean startup stuff where it's charging people before there's a product. And I've actually heard of a gray area where someone actually did a bait and switch with someone and pissed a lot of people off. But the other thing is, you're starting a business, you're an entrepreneur, you might just have to take, a leap of faith and just say, here's the price. And if people don't respond as much as you want, go back to them, ask them, and maybe try a lower price or a higher price, or like instead of a monthly thing, make it a weekly thing or an annual plan, or, play with it.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think at least with the screencast market, there's I don't want to say, the price is set or there's a big precedent, but there are a lot of folks out there that all follow basically the same model. It's all really close to $9 a month for some published schedule, and the schedule changes a little bit. But it seems like that's where most screencasts are falling in.
Right. Yeah, I've seen $9 a month seems to be the standard price, but there's one on Python that's $9 a month, and you get one a week. And then there are others. Avdi started doing 3 a week, but then he moved down to 2 a week. So, from Avdi, you're basically getting twice as much content for the same price. Now, whether that means he should be increasing his price, I don't know.
You have to look at that a little bit because Avdi's tapas are all, I think they're all under 5 minutes, which sure. Not that the time
you have to be careful there.
Is the same across the same, but is the same as a valid comparison or whatever. But there are some differences, and I think I pay maybe $14 a month for one screencast series, and that's funnily enough, that's the one. Funny enough, that's the one I want to drop because their schedule is so inconsistent. But yeah, screencasts, and I think a lot of this can be traced back to Peep Code, and I think they sort of set the high mark for screencasts, even if it was one-off screencasts at $9 or $11 or whatever it started out to be, and you were looking at basically a feature-length production from Jeffrey Grossenbach. It was like an hour and a half with a ton of effects and transitions and all this stuff, and it was, I don't know, it just seems where it got set, and most people fell in line with $9 a month. They're very close to that. If you pay for value, or people pay for value, and so if you can provide the value, you might be able to get away with different pricing structure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, we have a couple episodes on pricing, and almost all the points work the same for products. Like, for me, when I was an employee, when PeepCode was out, I would pay $9, and it might have saved me 3 or 4 hours, which at my, hourly rate that I was getting paid, it might have been a value of, say, $50, we'll say. Versus as a freelancer, okay, now that value of saving time to learn it and going the kind of the shortcut route of PeepCode, it might be worth $200 an episode. Right now, if I knew someone that was putting out like a really good marketing subscription podcast / screencast, whatever service, I would probably pay a couple $100 a month for it. And actually, in fact, I did a while back. The reason why is if I spend $200 a month, but I'm getting $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month in value and in learning and education as a business owner, that it's stupid for me not to do that. And so I think that's something you have to watch for. PeepCode kind of set the bar. I think they started at 9. I think they're up to like 11 or something. And a lot of people just kind of saw that like that's a competition and we're going to price to match the competition. They didn't really look at how they wanted to be on like how much value PeepCode delivers versus how much value they're going to deliver. And it can work, and it has worked for a lot of people, but you need to look and figure out, is your product a direct competitor to these other people, or is it a higher end product, or is it a lower end product? And that's a whole pricing discussion. And that's, like I said, you kind of have to do a leap of faith and try some things and see, maybe like we're talking about the Postgres people who are very high end and know about performance. Maybe they're working in jobs where their employer is willing to pay $49 a month, but you're not going to know that unless you talk to them or you actually set that price and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I guess, if the price doesn't work, there's no rule that says you can't change it. You can move it around. It might be tricky to do with a subscription service. Probably then you need to have them resubscribe at the new price point, especially if it's higher. But, if the business is going to survive and it's not surviving or it's not doing well at one price point, then playing with that might be necessary.
Well, and Chuck mentioned this earlier. He was saying how he would want to work on a project that has a certain amount of passion for him as long as it hit kind of a baseline revenue or whatever. If you're undercharging and you're undercharging and you're still having to produce, it can actually drain your passion knowing that I have to make the screencast and I need to still go do freelance work and I need to have this part-time job just to pay the bills because I chose the wrong price. Versus if I picked the price, I could just be doing the screencast thing and I wouldn't have my passion getting sucked by all these other tangents. And that's something to think about too. The more you charge, the more flexibility you have, whether it's to give discounts, to have sales, or just to lower your price and actually make most of your customers happier because you have to pay less.
Yeah, there's no quicker way to resent a thing than know you're undercharging for work that you have to keep doing.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, that was a lot of why I don't do Teaching Me to Code anymore. I love doing the screencasts and I love interacting with people, but ultimately, when I had to pay for things and when I had to make things work, I wasn't getting paid for it, so it was one of the things that had to get dropped. And so, it was unfortunate and it's something I want to start up again, but making it a priority is hard because I have all of these other things that are paid that I also love that are, more important to me. And so, if I did have a revenue model behind it, it would be a higher priority because I could justify taking the time away from one thing and putting it on that.
Right.
Anyway, we've been talking for almost an hour. Are there any other aspects of this that we should cover? I think there was a little bit of discussion over like the video quality versus the production time and the cost. So
Right. I have zero experience. I've done some screencasts, but not really that many. So I'm guessing I'll have to spend a fair amount of time learning the ropes in that and getting the video editing down. Mm-hmm. But, you guys were saying, well, it's sort of, it depends on the market, depends on the person. Sometimes the video quality can be amazing, like PeepCode was. It was super, super polished.
Yeah, and Eric made a good point in the chat room, and that is that, you could just hire somebody to do the editing for you. And, that's what I do with the podcasts, and that works out real nice for me. But
yeah, and I think it's hard. Any sort of post-production is just a pain, and there's multiples. So I don't know what it takes. Mandy to do the podcast maybe twice the time of a published episode or something like that, but it takes even longer for video, especially if you're cutting in like chapter markers or something else like that. I mean, video takes a ridiculous amount of time to get done. I mean, and there are a few schools of thought to that. I mean, I think Gary Bernhardt said he did all his live with he'd do cuts just to take a drink or something, but he would do the whole thing live. And if there was a mistake, he would scrap it and do the whole thing again. He didn't do any editing, but it took him, I don't know, 9 or 10 passes to get it right. And then if you do go the traditional route and prepare for the episode and have sort of a script you follow and lay it down and then have to go back and edit the video and edit the audio and put it all together, it takes a while. And the hiring is interesting. One of the problems, and maybe it's not a huge problem anymore, but video is way bigger than audio, is way bigger than text. So you have to find ways to share that video that doesn't kill your network or your offsite storage or whatever, and not lose a bunch if you're compressing it down. And it's interesting. I expect it to take way longer than you think it's going to get that stuff done.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, just for a case thing, the book I wrote where I have almost an hour of video. It took me, I think, 6 days to write the entire book, but then it took over, I think, a week and a half to record an hour video. And the hour video was minuscule compared to the amount of content in the book. And that's because I know how to write, I know how to edit, and I hired someone to help me. And the video I did all myself and basically had to learn from scratch. And so that's, your production is going to get better as you go and as you practice, but you need to take that into account. You have to plan your schedule. So if you're going to do a weekly video screencast, you might want to start a couple of weeks ahead of time, at least till you know how long it's going to take.
Right. Yeah, I have a cousin who worked in Hollywood and television for many, many years, and we once visited her a few years ago. And her job was to be the assistant director, meaning after they've shot the TV show, she would then sit in a room and say, yeah, we really want a camera 1 here. No, we really want a camera 3 here. And let's tighten this up here and there. And that's when I realized that if you want super high quality video, it takes an enormous amount of editing. And it's just, to someone like me, at least, it's mind-numbingly boring. I mean, to her, it was exciting and she got a bunch of Emmys out of it. So, good for her. But that's definitely not what I want to be spending an enormous amount of time on. But we'll see. That's part of the deal.
Yeah, I mean, luckily it's normally a single source, just your screen, maybe 2 sources if you're going to do a talking floating head over the screen. So there's not a ton of sources to cut in, and you don't need super high-end tools. I think there was a peep code on how to do a screencast, and I think there were 2 levels, and he had some really, really high-end tools and Mac Pro rendering farm to do all the rendering and stuff like that. But I mean, ScreenFlow is good enough for just about everything, audio and video. And I mean, $100, you could watch the bundles, and sometimes you can grab it for 50 or whatever. But it's definitely worth the money. You can get almost everything done on the ScreenFlow, and then rendering time, and there are services that you can farm out the rendering to if you're going to transcode it to a bunch of different formats, which is another discussion. But I mean, everything takes a long time. It's just the nature of the beast.
And we did do an episode on screencasting, so I'm going to refer a lot of people back to that. And I think we've also done screencasting on some of the other shows. I know we did one on JavaScript Jabber as well, so I'll put links to those in the show notes. But there is a lot of stuff that you can outsource related to this. Are there any other aspects to the business? Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I'll say one thing. I mean, this was actually the bulk of the chat, and we don't need to really talk about it, but you don't need to have the exact same high quality stuff Peepcode has. You can get by with having a lower quality version, and depending on what your actual customers want, that you might not need it. I actually prefer really short, these tapas are perfect size for me. And I don't like all the post-production and all that stuff. Peepcode works for me, but I fast forward, or I play Peepcode faster than, 1x speed, because I don't care about a lot of the production. I just want the knowledge. And having an intro and the different chapter markers is actually a deterrent for me personally. So the point is to go and figure out what your customers want, what they would like to have, and, build in the amount of production quality that they need, and then, just stay there. Don't worry about making it the best or an Emmy award winning screencast.
Right. I'm actually personally attracted also to the tapas, super short, get in, get out, like say what you have to say, because the people I work with, people we all work with, are busy, and they're much more likely to watch something that's 5 minutes long than 15 minutes long, let alone an hour long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so for me, what that speaks to is your audience, right? You understand the audience that you're after. You understand that they have these time constraints. And so you also then understand that putting together a short video that immediately and concisely solves their problem is what they want.
Right.
All right, well, I think we're about to the point where we need to wrap the show up. But it's been a good discussion, and hopefully this helps some folks decide how to move forward with their product development, be it something that is kind of an ongoing thing or just one-off products. I think there's a lot of good stuff here for that. So,
I think right before we get into picks, I think one last thing from a business perspective is I don't think there's probably no such thing as too crowded a market in the screencasting space right now. I think there's still a lot of opportunity for a lot of different people to provide a lot of different takes and views on the same topic. So, I mean, even if you're interested and you want to do Ruby, which seems to be like the poster language for screencast, turning screencasts into money, there's probably still opportunities there.
Yeah, the other thing that I've seen is that generally if there's nobody in the space, you want to be looking for why that is, because in some cases, yeah, there's a market there and people are going to want to buy that product, but in a lot of other cases, there's no market and that's why there's nobody there. So pay attention to that as well, go see what's there. But the thing is like with Postgres or some of these other topics, I've talked to enough people to know that there's a market there for it. So just some thoughts there.
I'm happy you're doing my market research for me, Chuck. Thank you.
All right, well, let's get to the picks. Eric, what are your picks?
So I've been kind of like messing around with my habits and trying to build better habits. I've kind of, quote, fell off the wagon or got on the wagon, whatever it is, when you don't stop doing them. And I've actually got an app. It's an older iOS app called Epic Win that I've been using a lot. It's actually now my main habit tracking app. And I might have picked it before, but it's actually working really good for me now. It's nice to kind of check stuff off and to win the game. Other than that, I have nothing else. I haven't been looking online for much of anything recently.
All right. Jeff, what are your picks?
So I only have one, and I don't know how genuine a pick it is because I've only seen it and it looks cool. I've never used it, but it's called Doodle. It's group scheduling. So I think I mentioned last show, I'm coach my daughter's robotics team, and this is just a way that I could say practice my house Sunday, who can be there, or when can people be there, and it just does that online. But it looks like a cool little app, so that's my pick.
Awesome. Reuben, what are your picks?
So I got 3 picks this week, all of them sort of fun in nature. Number 1 is podcast Planet Money from NPR. I've been listening from the beginning. They seem to have slowed down a little bit in the number of new episodes they do, but the idea is that it's economics reported from an interesting angle, usually interesting stories and so forth. I think it's generally a lot of fun, and they're doing this big project now where they've decided to create a T-shirt. Not only the T-shirt is so beautiful, but they're doing the entire process of the T-shirt creation, from design to the weaving, the picking of the cotton to the creating the thread and on to the actual creation of the T-shirt as on their broadcast. And it's interesting to hear the economics of the clothing industry, which, I mean, we all wear clothing, I hope, but I don't know much about how it's produced, so I've really been learning a lot from that. And just in general, it's a fun podcast. And 2 other things, I drink a lot of seltzer, and so I love my SodaStream machine. I've had it for a few years. It's very popular in Israel because the company's from Israel, but I know they're now in the US and elsewhere, and if you're a big soda drinker, then great fun. And last but not least, I've discovered, I think years after everyone else did, thanks to Netflix Futurama. And boy, what a fun show. So anyway, those are my picks for this week.
Awesome. I have one pick this week. It is The Secret Weapon, thesecretweapon.org. What it is in a nutshell is it's a way of managing your GTD workflow from your inbox and Evernote. So I've been using this for the past few weeks. I tend to like it for the most part better than OmniFocus. There are one or two things that I wish it had that OmniFocus has, but other than that, it's really, really nice, and it's a system that works for me. I do have the Pro version of Evernote, and that way I can email stuff into Evernote and things like that. The one issue that I really have with it is the fact that it doesn't seamlessly integrate the email that I use, which is the Gmail web interface, with Evernote, so I have to do a lot of forwarding and importing things with a browser plugin and things like that. The guy that did it, he uses Outlook, and then there is a plugin for Outlook that allows you to push things back and forth between his version of Evernote and Outlook. And the other thing is he recorded it on Windows, and the Mac version is just a little bit different than the Windows version of Evernote. Unless his version of Evernote is a little old, which is also possible. But for the most part, I really like it, and it's working really well, so I'm trying to find ways to solve the discontinuity between the two, but I had the same discontinuity with Evernote, or with OmniFocus, so there is that. Anyway, that's my pick. Next week, we're going to be talking to Joe Kuttner about his book, The Healthy Programmer, so don't miss that, and make sure you
bring your vegetables.
That's right. Bring your vegetables, and we'll catch y'all next week.